Today we're starting out our Dodge tuning series with a doozy, putting flex fuel into the Hellcat. Stick around. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the garage and welcome to my 2016 Hellcat. I have not posted lately because I picked this thing up and then I've been doing some stuff with Elite Tune School, which, by the way, since I've mentioned it, if you want to learn some tuning stuff, go down the description, click on the link, make sure and use our code, save some money on their classes. Their Global B content is getting ready to drop. You really need to have Gen 5 foundation before you start Global B, but I think they're going to be doing a bundle package where you can get a huge discount. I highly suggest it. I will be taking the Global B online course myself. So back to Dodge. Yeah, I picked up a 2016 Dodge Hellcat, like 30,000 miles. I got a deal on it because technically it wouldn't pass Pennsylvania emissions because it didn't have cats. Threw some high flow cats on it. She's good to go now. Now is time to start the tuning process. There's a caveat on this though, and that is that this is a Hellcat, so it has factory widebands. We'll talk more about that in the future whenever we get into specifically neural networking, which is going to be the majority of stuff that we touch on. Because as long as you have the factory cam in here with the variable valve timing, you have to use neural networking. The cool thing about Dodge is it does have a VE only mode that you can kick over to a standard VE table, but you have to use a locked out cam in order to do that because it only works on one cam position. So we'll talk more about that, and if I haven't already, this would be a great place to throw in the disclaimer.
This video is intended for educational purposes only. Improper tuning can cause catastrophic mechanical damage, and you should do your own research before attempting any changes like this to a vehicle. Attempt custom tuning at your own risk.
With all of that out of the way, let's talk about adding flex fuel to the Hellcat. Any of the vehicles that have the built-in wideband can use the wideband to determine alcohol content, much like Ford does. And I did a video on back, 2 years ago, whenever I had the Shelby GT350 setting it up on flex fuel. And obviously there is 1,000 reasons why to go over to E85. It's higher octane, it's, it creates a denser, cooler air charge. It creates power. It literally creates power. And so on a boosted application, it is a no-brainer. Now, there has been some scuttlebutt out there whether or not this works on newer Hellcats. I don't know. Do your own research as usual. It's working for mine, and so I want to walk you through what we do to set this up. And so I've got the editor pulled up here, and let me start it out this way. Let's go, and I'm going to put my as found file up here. This is the stock file for my Hellcat. First things first that we want to do is we want to go over to the OS tab where we have a flex fuel code modifier and apply it. It says save it, reopen it. So we'll do that. Oh shit. Oops. Oops. I saved it over my as found. That sucks. Oh well. So here we go. This is with the code applied. You can see on the operating system tab, flex fuel applied. If we go over to engine, most of everything that we really need to look at is going to be under oxygen sensors and flex fuel. There is some stuff under spark, of course, for whenever we get into alcohol, MBT. This is zeroed out. We'll need to populate all that stuff. But where do we get this data from? That's a great question. The easiest place to find this data is from a stock Demon 170 tune. Make sure it's a 170 because that's the one that runs on flex fuel, and I happen to have one. You can search Google stock Demon or Demon 170 HP tuners tune. You'll find a stock one out there. but I'll try and throw this up on like a Google Drive or something and put a link in the description so you can grab it from there. But we'll bring it up as a compare. Now there's going to be a lot of things that are not lining up, and you'll have gray boxes for those. In fact, so we see right here, this is the percentage spark alcohol based blend, and on the factory setup you can see that we have 0, so it's saying no alcohol blend on timing. Then the 30, 50, 85, 100, like those tables, what we need to do is go ahead and open up a second window for the editor. Once we get that window opened up, we're just going to open up the Demon 170 tune in it. So come on, computer, catch up. So here we'll open up our Demon 170 tune. And this is a long process. This is going to be pretty truncated. This is going to require you to do a lot of work on your own. I'm just going to give you the highs and lows. So if we go back to the one where we have the compare file, we can see like our blend factor is grayed out. Something's not matching up on the table. If we come over here, we can look at our Demon blend factor, and we can see that, hey, there's only 4 rows on here, and it goes 10, 40, 50, 65. And beyond 65, we're at 100%. So what we do is if we click over here, it'll open up our editor for our axis. We'll copy that, and we'll jump back over here and do the same. And we'll paste that in. So we have 85. You can take this out to 85 or 100. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and make it 85 because we're only going to fill up the 10, 30, 50, 60, 85. To do that, we'll go over now, copy this, and we're going to paste it in here. And the thing about it is, we're already at full spark blend by 65%, so we don't care. Anything above 65% is going to be full spark table blend. So for some of the rest of it, we can come in here and look at like our base. We won't mess with that because this is the base for the Demon, but we will look at our alcohol tables, and this is the difference. So we can just go over to show differences, select the whole table, hit 0, boom. Now we have a spark modifier table that it can go to. Keep in mind, it said this is for a Demon 170, but basically the same motor. It's a little bit more beefy on the Demon motor with a bigger blower. So if the Demon can run this timing, your Hellcat should be able to run this timing on stock boost. Now, if you've got more than stock boost, you need to be aware of that. And so kind of click through some of these, but most of these we can leave alone. Like spark blend percentage ethanol will need to be populated, so we'll have to do the 2 table. Like go over to the other tune, spark blend percentage ethanol, and you can see that we're 0 to 1 at 80%. So in that case, we would go 0, and then at like 75, we can put 1 in, interpolate vertically, and then make 100 a 1 also, and that's going to get us in the ballpark there. So any of these spark tables that are zeroed out from the get-go, we need to populate. So part throttle base alcohol, this one, since it's green, we can just do go over here to the compare tab, make it all zeros. Then if we go back to our main tab, we now have data populated in there. Now the ones that are green that have data on both, mainly if it has data in the main tab for spark, leave it alone. We're only worried about changing the ones that don't have data in the main. Same thing, blend factor. All the rest of these you're going to have to go through. A lot of them you're going to have to copy over from the other tune. The compare function won't work, and you might have to rescale. But let's jump over to the important part, and that's going to be under our fuel tab. So under our fuel tab, alcohol, learn, bank 2 needs to be enabled, PTE, desired enrichment. This is a little funky because you can see this one's based on RPMs on the Demon. I didn't mess with this one. The FA stoic tables we will need to probably update. So there are values that are populated in the FA stoic whenever we apply the patch. And for the most part, they should be pretty close, but I went ahead and copied those over. And you can see this is 10, 85, 100. You have to do some interpolation, but it gives you enough that if we go with the 10 and 85 and put in there, we can interpolate in between 10 and 85 because it is linear. You know, our alcohol FA stoic is linear there. So we'd have to do that with all three of these FA stoic tables, and this is our fuel to air tables that determine what 1 lambda is, so that's very important. And then the other ones will be the max and the mins, because we are going into FA, our ethanol, our FA max and min have to be changed over. On the min, it's a gray box. We'll have to copy that one over manually. You can see here that we've got 0, 10, 30, 85, 100. And if we go over to our min on our Demon 170 tab, we have 0 is 0500. So that tells me it's just saying that 0500 is the min FA. We can make that whole table 0500. So if we jump back over, here's our min, we can go 0.0500. And you can see it was already set there for 10%. We're making that whole table 0500. And that means on this one, it is not the same scale. Be aware of that. So if we go over to the Demon compare, show compare, where we're looking at the Demon 170 tune and click on alcohol composition, we can actually just do this. Same thing. We can say, okay, zero out the differences. And now our Hellcat tab is going to match our Demon, and same thing on our RPM axis. Let's go over, zero it out, bingo. Now those match. We can zero out the differences on the actual table, and now our Hellcat table is going to match the Demon 170. So that's the big stuff under fuel in general. Next, we move over to oxygen sensors, and this is probably the most critical one to pay attention to because there's some stuff that's not going to line up and you don't necessarily need it. So let's start at the top underneath general, and we're going to go FAR threshold first, execution. If we go over to our 170, you see we have an actual table, but it's flatlined at the table at 720. So we're good at 720 there. Then we have our bank 1 and bank 2 goals for FAR. They're set at 735. If we come back over here, we have a table. Actually, that's not the one that we're looking for. This is where it gets a little bit wonky because we have to jump around and find what matches up. Bank 1 goal FAR. These are controls. And in this case, we can make those 720 also to match our first threshold first, because there is not a table that lines up 1 for 1. Now we get into a couple greens, so we're going to go here and zero out the differences, and essentially all this does is say that adapt low and adapt high limits are higher on the Demon setup. The goal low limit, once again, we've got mismatched tables there where we've zero across, so we'll go into the axis editor, zero out the differences on the axis editor, and now we can zero out the differences in the table. And that did not work. Let me do that. Oh, it didn't work because it's 580. Sometimes you have to, if you put the same value that's already in a table, it won't take the changes. I wish they would change that. So now we've got a goal high limit, and I guarantee you that this is not going to match up on the table. We're going to have to go over to our other tune file, and you can see a 0, 50, 85, 100. So what we'll do in this case is we'll just copy those, and we can say boom. We'll just have 2 cells that are 100. Easy enough, right? Then we can copy in our table here. And we'll make this one match our 100. 0.1, what are we doing here? 0.1244. We did not get the decimal in the right place. Stop it. Okay, 0. Oh my goodness. Okay. 0.1244. There we go. Okay, so that's going to line up now with the settings on the Demon setup. We got some more green boxes that we can come in here and go over to the Show Differences tab and just zero them out. And as you can see, they're literally 0.001 volt off, so it's not, those could probably be made the same. In fact, it's not even going to take a zero change on there because it's so close. Yeah, so those I wouldn't worry about. Now here's where it gets interesting. Goal offset. Let's go look, see if we got a goal offset over here. And we don't. We have a goal far offset. And over here we have a goal far offset. And as you can see, the scaling's wrong, so we need to do the thing where we make the scaling the same. Then we can set this table to match, but we get an error and it says the parameter's out of range. What's going on with that? No, do not do this. It will totally mess everything up. Click on no for that one, and we need to back it up. I don't know if we can back it up enough. Okay, so 0.015 was the setting at 85%. So what I'm going to do is come down here and make this one 0.015. And I'm going to make this one 0. And I'm going to interpolate this vertically now. And if we're at 0.015 at 85, I can make this one 0.020. It'll be high. We're not going to get to 100% on this. If you're running E100, you know, straight ethanol, you need to have a straight ethanol tune. But that one table there, be aware, if you get that one messed up, your widebands on your Hellcat will read very, very rich. And so it will actually, even though you're commanding 1 lambda, closed loop will keep you about 0.85 lambda because of that table. Now on our goal offset, these values will be fine. We've got values populated in 0, 40, 80. We're going to leave those the same. And if you want to, you can come in here and go 0, 2, 3, 5 down across the board to make it anything above 80 match up. So go through the rest of these that are green and make those match. Said a lot of these you will have to adjust the axis of the table. Quick way, just click on the title, go over to the 0 tab, or the differences tab, zero it out, and make sure you're checking both the vertical and horizontal, because sometimes they're different in both places. We want to make them all match up to the Hellcat and the Demon, and then that way we can come in here and zero everything out. So we're going to do that for everywhere that we have a green or gray box. Green boxes, you know, we can do it with the compare feature in the tune. Gray boxes, we have to have the Demon 170 tune opened up in another window. So that's one of the big tabs. The other big tabs is the actual flex fuel tab. Lots to change in here. Luckily, most all of this is green. And what you'll find is on the Hellcat, you can see all of these are zeroed out. And what we're just going to have is values from the Demon 170. So we can literally come in here and put it on the compare mode. And for most of this, just go down here. I'm going to tab through and zero all these out. And by zeroing out the comparison, we're making the Hellcat file match the Demon 170 file. And so once we get through all these, we'll be able to go back to the Hellcat, view the Hellcat values, and they're going to all be populated, where beforehand they were all zeroed. And the nice thing is, whenever we don't have a table that we're editing, it makes it a lot quicker for making these changes. So get over to this one. Okay, now we've got a couple drop down boxes. We'll see that they're both enabled. We can come back over here and enable both of them. They'll go red to say that they've been edited. And now we need to look at our actual table. So ethanol percentage correction, this table actually matches up, so there's nothing to change there. Might be a decimal place that flags that or something, I'm not sure. And then the integral update, we can go ahead and make those match. Same on this one. Zero those out to make the tables match. Fuel volume trigger. And just checking the scaling, you can see the scaling's different where this one goes to 100. So I'll go ahead and make that match. And that's kind of the whole process, is just making sure things match up between the two. It's going to get you 99% of the way there. The big one being that one that I talked about in oxygen sensors. If it pops up and tells you it's out of range, go back to the values that were already in there. So same thing, blend curve. And you notice there's no title over here, but I can still left click on this and do the same thing where I clear out the differences to make the tables match. And then in fact the data matches once you make the tables match on that one. So these decimal point goes out one more place, don't need to worry about that. Then key on multiplier populates the actual values. And boop. Do that. Okay, so once you get all those values changed, you are ready to save the file as a new name, and you're going to write it in. You have to do a write entire the first time because it does have an OS patch assigned to it. Once you do the write entire, you should be able to fire it up. Let's jump over to the scanner where we've got this running on an E85 flex fuel tune that we just set up essentially, and look at the data that we're looking for. And so ignore our graphs right now. A lot of these graphs I'm working on, they'll become available as we go through the process for neural networking, which is kind of a, you know, bag of its own stuff. But okay. So here we are, we've got our EQ ratio commanded. If we scroll down to where I'm logging alcohol percentage, we've got 56.5. The big thing to pay attention to on this is going to be our average FA open loop. If you're not logging this already, log it. This is going to be the FA that corresponds with our general FA stoich tab. And as we get richer, you can see between 50 and 85, it's 0.0846. and 0.1015, and we're at 0.0909 because we're at whatever the 52%, whatever, 56.5. And so we're rich. And in fact, if we come over to, let's see if we can find where we're idling at. Where are you at? Finding the data takes forever sometimes. One of these should have data populating. What's our cam angles? 133, 107. Oh, you know what? I think I broke the math. Let's do this. As I said, I'm still working on that part. Let's go in, we'll do our strip layout, and let's change this to target, or commanded. EQ ratio commanded. Then we'll make this one our wideband. We'll go with the number 1 wideband. And then we'll make this one, we'll go down to our custom math, and we're going to use a EQ fuel trims that has our EQ error plus our fuel trims error. And here you can see we're commanding 1, we're running about 0.90, so we are about 20% rich right now. A lot of horsepower to be picked up in 20% richness. So it shows that these things are tuned fairly rich from the factory and they need to be dialed in, but we're not going to get into that so much right now because future videos, this one's already long enough. This is going to be a 25-minute long video, but hopefully this helps clear the air on what it takes to get flex fuel in your Hellcat. Now, if you don't have factory widebands, this will not work. Don't ask. I'm not going to tell you. You can't do it. As far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, Dodge ECUs do not have an input for a sensor. Now, if we look underneath flex fuel, we've got the option of sensorless flex fuel. We don't have the option for a sensor anywhere. I don't know. I haven't done that much research because honestly, it doesn't affect me. But now the rest of the stuff that we talk about, in particular, we're going to get in pretty deep on the FA fuel to air calculations and how they're going to differ and what you'll have to do, because I won't even talk about it right now. Just if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss future Dodge content. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up for now. You guys know the drill. Thanks for stopping by the garage. Remember, ABT, always be tuning.